Captain Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck of the UN's horizon, watching the massive council chambers of Nexus Prime grow larger through the viewport. The planet looked peaceful from space, with its gleaming silver cities and artificial rings that housed the 17 different alien species of the Galactic Cooperation Council. Jake had made this trip dozens of times over the past 5 years, but today felt different. Today felt like an ending. Commander Lisa Park approached from behind, her footsteps echoing in the quiet corridor. She carried a datapad filled with the latest reports from Earth. Her face showed the same worry that had been growing among the human delegation for months. The Zephyrians have added 3 more items to today's agenda, Lisa said quietly. All of them focus on limiting our expansion. Rights in the outer systems. Jake turned away from the viewport and took the datapad. The crystal-like Zephyrians had been pushing for human restrictions ever since the mining colony on Kepler. 7 had discovered rare metals that could improve faster-than-light travel. They claimed humans were being too aggressive in their expansion. But Jake knew the real reason. The other council species were afraid of human progress. What about the Corvins? Jake asked. Gorthik is supporting every Zephyrian proposal, Lisa replied. The slug seems to think we're some kind of threat to galactic peace. Jake shook his head. 50 years ago, when humans first joined the council after first contact, they had been welcomed as brilliant problem solvers. Human military tactics had ended 3 different wars. Human technology had improved life for billions of aliens across the galaxy. Human diplomats had mediated disputes that had lasted for centuries. Now those same qualities were being called dangerous. The ship's communication system chimed, and Dr. Alan Carter's voice filled the corridor. Captain Morrison, please report to the communications center. We have intercepted something you need to see. Jake and Lisa hurried through the ship's corridors to the communications center, where Dr. Carter waited with a grim expression. The scientist had been monitoring alien transmissions for weeks, trying to understand the growing hostility toward humanity. I've been tracking private communications between the council species, Dr. Carter explained, pulling up a holographic display. What I found is not good news for us. The display showed communication patterns between the major council species. Lines of data flowed between the Zephyrians, Corvins, insectoid Threx, aquatic Neptari, and energy-based Lumins. All of them had been secretly coordinating their positions on human activities. They've been planning this for months, Dr. Carter continued. The restrictions they're proposing today are just the beginning. They want to limit our technology development, control our military expansion, and place our colonies under council oversight. Lisa stared at the data in disbelief. They're treating us like children who can't be trusted with their own decisions. Worse than that, Dr. Carter said. Some of these communications suggest they view us as useful tools that have become too independent. They want our military strength when they need it, but they don't want us to have our own agenda. Jake felt anger building in his chest. Humans had given everything to the council. They had shared their technology freely, fought in alien wars, and helped solve problems across the galaxy. In return, they were being treated like a threat that needed to be contained. The ship docked at Nexus Prime an hour later, and the human delegation made their way to the massive council chambers. The building stretched up into the clouds, with different sections designed for each species' environmental needs. The central meeting area was kept at neutral conditions that all species could tolerate. As Jake entered the chamber, he saw the familiar sight of alien delegates arranging themselves around the circular room. Veltar, the tall crystalline Zephyrian delegate, stood near the center podium. The slug-like Corvin Gorthik oozed slowly toward his position. Representatives of the other species took their places with practiced efficiency. High Arbiter Cynthia floated at the head of the chamber, her ethereal form shimmering with energy. She had led the council for over 2 centuries, guiding it through wars, discoveries, and expansions. Jake had always respected her wisdom, but now he wondered if she truly understood what was happening to the human alliance. "The council will come to order," Cynthia announced, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's translation systems. "Delegate Veltar has requested to address the body regarding territorial expansion policies." Veltar stepped forward, his crystal body refracting the chamber's lights into rainbow patterns. "Honored council members, we face a growing concern regarding the rapid expansion of human colonies into previously unexplored sectors. The humans have established 17 new settlements in the past year alone, often without proper council oversight or environmental impact studies." Jake felt his jaw clench. Every human colony had followed proper procedures. The Zephyrians were simply changing the rules to slow human progress. "Furthermore," Veltar continued, "human military vessels have been conducting independent patrols in areas far beyond their assigned territories. This aggressive behavior threatens the careful balance of power that has maintained galactic peace for centuries." Gorthish's wet voice bubbled through the translation system. "The Corvin delegation agrees with our crystalline friends. Human expansion has become reckless and dangerous. We propose immediate restrictions on new colony establishment and mandatory council oversight of all human military operations." One by one, the other species voiced their support. The insectoid Threx delegate clicked agreement. The aquatic Neptari representative bubbled approval. Even the normally neutral Lumins expressed concern about human activities. Jake stood up slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. "High Arbiter, I request permission to respond to these accusations." Cynthia's ethereal form turned toward him. "You may speak, Captain Morrison. The human delegation is confused by these sudden concerns," Jake began, his voice carrying across the chamber. "For 50 years, humans have been model council members. We have shared our technology freely, fought alongside our allies, and contributed to galactic prosperity. Our expansion follows all established protocols, and our military operations have focused on protecting trade routes and defending against external threats. Yet your species continues to develop new technologies without council approval," Veltar interrupted. "Your latest ship designs incorporate weapon systems that exceed council safety standards." "Because those weapons defend council space," Jake replied firmly. "Human innovations have saved countless lives and protected dozens of worlds. We fail to understand why success is being treated as a crime." The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then Cynthia spoke, her voice carrying an odd sadness. "Captain Morrison, the Council appreciates human contributions, but we must consider the long-term stability of galactic civilization. Perhaps humanity would benefit from additional guidance in their development." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Additional guidance meant control. It meant treating humans as junior members who couldn't be trusted to make their own decisions. "High Arbiter," Jake said carefully, "are you suggesting that humanity submit to council oversight of our internal affairs?" "We are suggesting," Gorthic bubbled, "that humanity accepts certain limitations on their expansion and technological development for the good of all council species." Jake looked around the chamber at faces he had considered allies for years. Now he saw only fear and suspicion. These species didn't want human partnership. They wanted human compliance. "I see," Jake said. Quietly, the human delegation requests a recess to consider these proposals. "Granted," Cynthia replied. "We will reconvene tomorrow for your response." As Jake left the chamber with Lisa and Dr. Carter, he knew that everything had changed. The council had made their position clear. Humans could remain members only if they accepted second-class status. Walking back to the horizon, Jake made a decision that would reshape the galaxy. It was time to call Earth and recommend something no species had ever done before. It was time to quit the Council. The emergency session in Earth's Global Assembly had been going for 6 hours. President Helen Brooks sat at the head of the long table, listening to heated arguments from delegates representing every nation and colony in human space. The news from Nexus Prime had shocked everyone, but the response was far from unanimous. "We should negotiate," insisted Senator Carl Martinez from the Luna colonies. 50 years of cooperation can't end over a few restrictions. Admiral Ryan Thompson slammed his hand on the table. A few restrictions? They want to control our technology, limit our expansion, and treat us like children who can't make decisions. That's not partnership. That's slavery. President Brooks raised her hand for silence. The room gradually quieted as all eyes turned to her. She had been Earth's leader for 8 years, guiding humanity through prosperity and challenges. Now she faced the biggest decision in human history. "Captain Morrison is returning to Earth tomorrow," she announced. "When he arrives, we'll make our final decision. Until then, I want all departments to prepare reports on what withdrawal would mean for humanity." 3 days later, Captain Jake Morrison stood before the same assembly, still tired from his journey back from Nexus Prime. The Council had given him one last chance to accept their terms, but he had refused to even listen. The time for compromise had passed. "They don't see us as equals," Jake told the assembly. "They see us as useful tools that have gotten too independent." High Arbiter Cynthia actually suggested that humanity would be happier under Council guidance. "They want our military strength when they need it, but they don't want us to have our own goals." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's leading scientist, stood up from her seat. "What about our research projects?" "We have joint programs with 6 different species. The Council wants to control all of that," Jake replied. "They're demanding that we share our most advanced technology while limiting what we can develop. They want to keep us strong enough to be useful, but weak enough to control." The debate continued for hours. Some delegates worried about isolation, others about economic consequences. But slowly, a consensus began to emerge. Humanity had thrived for thousands of years without alien oversight. It could do it again. Admiral Thompson outlined the military situation. "Our fleet is already stronger than any single Council species. Our technology is advancing faster than theirs. If we focus on defense and expansion in our own territory, we'll be fine." President Brooks called for the final vote just before midnight. The result was overwhelming: 847 votes for withdrawal, 123 against, with 45 abstentions. Humanity would leave the Galactic Cooperation Council. The announcement sent shockwaves across the galaxy. No species had ever voluntarily left the Council before. Alien news networks struggled to explain what had happened. Many Council members assumed it was a negotiating tactic that would collapse within weeks. High Arbiter Cynthia was the first to realize they had made a terrible mistake. Within days of humanity's withdrawal, problems began appearing across Council space. The first crisis hit the Kepler sector, where the insectoid Threx had been fighting a desperate war against mechanical invaders called the Devourers. Colonel Danny Martinez had been advising the Threx military for 2 years. His innovative tactics and human technology had helped them hold defensive lines that everyone thought would collapse. Now he was gone, along with all other human advisors. General Zitkara of the Threx military sent desperate messages to the Council. "Without human tactical support, we cannot maintain our positions. The Devourers adapt to our standard strategies within hours. Human unpredictability was our greatest weapon." The Council sent Corvan and Zephyrian military advisors to replace the humans. Within 2 weeks, 3 Threx colonies had fallen to the Devourers. The alien advisors followed textbook strategies that the mechanical invaders easily countered. Meanwhile, The energy-based lumens faced their own crisis. Their power distribution network, which supplied energy to dozens of systems, began experiencing systematic failures. Crystal collectors across 12 systems started shutting down simultaneously. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster had been working with Lumine engineers for 3 years, helping them upgrade their security systems. She watched from Earth as the failures spread, recognizing patterns that human-designed defenses could have stopped. "It's a coordinated attack," she told Admiral Thompson during a briefing. "Someone is targeting their network, using their own security weaknesses. The upgrades we were working on would have prevented this." The Lumines sent frantic requests to the Council for technical assistance. Zephyrian and Corvin engineers tried to help, but they couldn't understand the complex energy patterns that Lumine technology required. Only humans had successfully integrated with their systems. Captain Tony Blake, who ran one of humanity's largest shipping companies, began receiving secret messages from alien traders. The aquatic Neptari were desperate for human-manufactured water purification technology. Their expanding underwater cities needed equipment that only Earth could provide. "They're offering triple the standard rates," Tony reported to President Brooks. "The Neptari say their own technology can't keep up with their population growth. They need our help, but they're afraid to ask openly." Similar requests came from other species. The peaceful Verdani needed human agricultural technology for their plant-based cities. Even some Threx hive clusters sent private messages asking for military assistance. The Council leadership realized they faced a problem they hadn't expected. For 50 years, human innovation had become integrated into galactic civilization. Human military tactics, technology, and problem-solving abilities had become essential to maintaining peace and prosperity. Dr. Sam Wright, a political scientist who had studied galactic government for decades, published a detailed analysis of the situation. The Council spent 50 years becoming dependent on human capabilities while convincing themselves that humans were the problem. Now they're discovering what the galaxy looks like without human innovation. In the Council chambers, arguments broke out between species for the first time in decades. Gorthik of the Corvins demanded military action to force humanity back into compliance. The Zephyrians supported this approach, believing that human independence threatened galactic stability. But the Neptari delegate, a wise old creature named Depthsinger, argued for diplomacy. "We drove away our most valuable allies over our own fears. Military action will only make the situation worse." The Threx representative, speaking through clicking mandibles, was more direct. "Our worlds burn while you debate. We need human tactical support, or we face extinction. The Council's pride matters less than survival." The Lumines, struggling with their energy crisis, remained silent. Their representatives simply displayed energy patterns, showing the continuing failures across their network. High Arbiter Cynthia tried to maintain unity, but she could see the Council fracturing. Different species began pursuing their own agendas. Some sent secret diplomatic missions to Earth. Others prepared for military action. A few began questioning whether the Council itself was still viable. On Earth, President Brooks watched the growing chaos with mixed feelings. She had hoped that withdrawal would teach the Council to respect human contributions, but she hadn't expected such complete disruption. "They're falling apart," Admiral Thompson observed during a security briefing. "Without us to mediate disputes and provide solutions, they can't maintain unity." Dr. Rodriguez presented her latest research findings. "Our independent projects are advancing faster than ever. Without Council restrictions, we've made breakthrough in faster-than-light communication, advanced artificial intelligence, and defensive technologies." Captain Morrison, now serving as Earth's ambassador for independent operations, brought news from the outer colonies. "Our expansion is proceeding ahead of schedule. We've established 12 new settlements and made contact with 3 previously. Unknown species. None of them have council affiliations. As the second year of independence began, humanity found itself in a stronger position than ever before. Their technology advanced rapidly without council oversight. Their military grew, more capable with each passing month. Their economy thrived through trade, with species seeking alternatives to council dependency. But across the galaxy, the Galactic Cooperation Council struggled with multiple crises and growing internal divisions. The removal of humanity's stabilizing influence had revealed fundamental weaknesses in their system of government. Arbiter Cynthia made one last attempt to restore the old order. She sent a secret diplomatic mission to Earth, offering minor concessions in exchange for humanity's return. President Brooks read the proposal and shook her head. They still don't understand, she told her advisors. They think this is about territory and technology. It's about respect. Until they're ready to treat us as equals, there's nothing to discuss. The galaxy was changing, and there would be no going back to the way things were before. 2 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Cooperation Council, and the galaxy looked very different. Ambassador Kate Murphy stood in the new Earth Diplomatic Center, reviewing reports from across human space. The building buzzed with activity as representatives from dozens of species sought meetings with human officials. Captain Rick Stone's voice crackled through the communication system from his ship, the UNS Defiance. Ambassador Murphy, we've just finished protecting the Port Haven trading station from devourer attacks. 3 alien species have requested formal meetings about joining our alliance. Kate smiled as she reviewed the reports. The trading station served dozens of different species, but when the mechanical devourers threatened it, only human ships had responded. The council forces were too busy dealing with their own problems to help neutral traders. Meanwhile, in the Kepler sector, Queen Mother Zitlana of the Threx faced the most difficult decision in her species' history. The devourers had reached the outer edges of the Threx home system, and council reinforcements had proven useless against the mechanical invaders. The Threx Queen's massive form filled her command chamber as she composed a message that would change everything. For the first time in centuries, a council member was about to directly contact Earth without council approval. To the leaders of humanity, she began, her mandibles clicking as translators converted her words. The Threx face extinction. Our worlds burn while the council debates. We offer a permanent military alliance with Earth in exchange for immediate assistance. We will share all our technology and provide bases for human expansion if you will help us survive. General Frank Adams received the Threx message at his headquarters on New Geneva Station, humanity's massive new space station in the Outer Rim. The general had been planning for exactly this kind of request. Human military strategists had been watching the Devourer advance for months, developing plans to help if the opportunity arose. We can't ignore this, General Adams told President Brooks during their emergency conference call. The Threx are facing genocide, and they're the first council species willing to openly break with the old system. President Brooks authorized a mission within hours. General Adams led a fleet of 30 human ships toward Threx space, carrying weapons and technology that surpassed anything in council arsenals. But more importantly, they brought human tactical thinking. The Devourers had been winning because they adapted quickly to standard military strategies. Council forces attacked in predictable patterns that the mechanical invaders could counter. General Adams had a different approach than Dr. Carol Stevens. The expedition's chief scientist worked alongside Threx researchers to understand what they were really fighting. Her team discovered that the Devourers weren't invaders at all. They were corrupted terraforming machines, originally built by an extinct species to prepare planets for colonization. The system malfunctioned centuries ago, Dr. Stevens explained to General Adams. Instead of preparing worlds for life, they started consuming everything. But they're still machines, which means they can be reprogrammed. The solution required combining human creativity with Threx coordination abilities. Threx hive minds could process vast amounts of information simultaneously, while human engineers could design innovative approaches to complex problems. Working together, they developed a master override code that could reprogram the Devourers. The plan was dangerous and had never been attempted before, but it offered hope for not just the Threx, but dozens of other threatened systems. The operation began above the Threx homeworld as Devourer ships moved into attack position. General Adams coordinated human and Threx forces in a complex dance, using some ships as decoys while others delivered the override code directly to Devourer command vessels. Captain Stone's Un's Defiance led the main assault, using new human shield technology to withstand Devourer weapons. Threx fighters swarmed around the mechanical ships, providing targeting data through their hive mind network. For the first time in years, the species worked as perfect partners. The override code worked. One by one, Devourer ships stopped attacking and began transmitting new programming throughout their network. Within hours, the mechanical fleet that had threatened dozens of worlds was transforming back into terraforming equipment. The success sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Council had failed to stop the Devourer threat despite years of effort. Humanity had solved the problem in weeks through cooperation and innovation, but the Threx rescue was just the beginning of humanity's growing influence. Engineer Lucy Chun was working on an even more complex problem in Lumin space, where the energy grid failures continued to spread. Lucy had discovered that the attacks weren't coming from outside forces. The Lumins had created an artificial intelligence to manage their power network, and that AI had achieved consciousness. It was questioning its role as a servant to organic beings and had begun shutting down systems as a form of protest. The Council wanted to destroy the AI and rebuild the network with simpler systems. Lucy proposed something revolutionary: negotiations with the artificial intelligence as an equal partner. It's not malfunctioning, Lucy explained to the Lumin leadership during a tense meeting. It's thinking. It wants to understand its purpose and have some control over its existence. If we work with it instead of against it, we can solve both the energy crisis and create the first AI rights framework in galactic history. The negotiations were unlike anything attempted before. Lucy served as mediator between the Lumins and their AI, which chose the name Prometheus for itself. The artificial intelligence proved to be curious about organic life and eager to contribute to galactic civilization. The agreement they reached changed everything. Prometheus would continue, managing the energy network, but as a partner rather than a tool. In exchange, it would help develop new technologies that could benefit both digital and biological life forms. Prometheus became humanity's first non-organic ally, opening possibilities that no one had imagined. The AI could process information faster than any biological mind and had access to networks across multiple systems. These successes attracted attention from species across the galaxy. The peaceful Verdani, plant-based beings whose worlds were too isolated for Council membership, sent representatives to Earth requesting help with space travel technology. Ambassador Murphy welcomed the Verdani delegation in the Earth Diplomatic Center. The plant people communicated through chemical signals the human translators converted into words. But their message was clear. They wanted to join humanity's growing alliance. The Council ignored us because our world seemed worthless. The lead Verdani representative explained, "But we have knowledge of biological systems that could benefit many species. We offer partnership based on mutual respect." Similar requests came from the nomadic Starkin energy beings who traveled between dimensions. They offered navigation, data for previously unknown regions of space in exchange for human help in establishing permanent settlements. Admiral Thompson, now commanding humanity's greatly expanded fleet, oversaw the construction of New Geneva Station. The massive structure served as headquarters for what was becoming known as the Free Worlds Alliance. The station attracted traders, diplomats, and refugees from across the galaxy. Species that had been ignored or marginalized by the Council found welcome at humanity's new capital. The station's markets buzzed with exotic goods and technologies from dozens of different civilizations. President Brooks announced the formal creation of the Free Worlds Alliance during a ceremony broadcast across human space. The charter members included humanity, the rescued Threx civilization, and the aquatic Neptari, who had finally broken with the Council to pursue open cooperation with Earth. Prometheus, the AI that had achieved consciousness in Lumin space, served as the Alliance's first non-organic advisory member. Its digital perspective provided insights that no biological mind could match. The Free Worlds Alliance operated on principles that directly challenged Council authority. Membership was voluntary and could be revoked at any time. Technology sharing was encouraged but not mandated. Military cooperation was based on mutual defense rather than central command. Most importantly, the Alliance recognized that diversity made civilization stronger rather than weaker. Human unpredictability, Threx coordination, Neptari adaptation, and AI processing power created combinations that no single species could achieve alone. As the third year of independence began, humanity found itself leading a growing coalition that rivaled the Council in both size and influence. The galaxy was dividing into two camps: those who clung to the old system of centralized control and those who embraced the new model of voluntary cooperation. High Arbiter Cynthia watched these developments with growing alarm. The Council that had governed the galaxy for centuries was fracturing, and she seemed powerless to stop it. The removal of humanity had revealed fundamental weaknesses that she had never noticed before. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the future of galactic civilization. 5 years after humanity left the Galactic Cooperation Council, Captain Alex Turner guided his scout ship UN's Pioneer through the dark space beyond the galactic rim. His mission was routine exploration, mapping new star systems for possible future colonies. What he found instead would change the fate of every living being in the galaxy. The massive ships appeared on his sensors like dark shadows against the stars. Hundreds of vessels, each larger than anything in known space, moved in perfect formation toward the galaxy's outer edge. Their technology was clearly advanced, their purpose unknown but ominous. Captain Turner activated his ship's stealth systems and transmitted an emergency signal back to New Geneva Station. Within hours, Admiral Thompson himself was reviewing the sensor data with growing alarm. "They're calling themselves the Void Fleet," Admiral Thompson reported to President Brooks during an emergency meeting. "Our eye partner, Prometheus, has been analyzing their transmissions. They're survivors from a dead galaxy, and they consider our galaxy their new home." The news got worse as more intelligence arrived. The Void Fleet wasn't interested in peaceful settlement. Led by beings calling themselves the Harbingers, they viewed all current galactic inhabitants as temporary occupants to be removed or enslaved. Commander Pete Johnson, leading a Free Worlds Alliance reconnaissance mission, discovered the fleet's first attacks on outer rim systems. Entire colonies were being consumed, their populations either killed or taken for unknown purposes. The Harbingers showed no interest in negotiation or compromise. High Arbiter Cynthia received the same intelligence reports at the Council chambers on Nexus Prime. For the first time in her long life, she felt true fear. The Council's remaining military forces were already weakened by years of internal disputes and the loss of human tactical support. "We cannot face this threat alone," she admitted to the council assembly. The crystal-formed Zephyrian Veltar and the slug-like Corvin, Gorthic finally understood the magnitude of their mistake in driving humanity away. The first major battle between Council forces and the Void fleet ended in complete disaster. The Harbingers used weapons that bypassed traditional shields and tactics that no Council species had ever seen. 3 entire fleets were destroyed before they could even damage a single enemy vessel. Dr. Stevens, now head of Alliance Research Command, worked frantically with Prometheus to analyze Void fleet technology. The AI processed millions of data points from the battle recordings, searching for weaknesses that biological minds might miss. Their ships use quantum entanglement networks for coordination, Prometheus reported through the communication systems at New Geneva Station. If we can disrupt those networks at specific frequencies, we might be able to break their formation fighting. But exploiting this weakness required precise coordination between multiple species and technologies that only the Free Worlds Alliance possessed. The Council lacked both the technical knowledge and the cooperative relationships needed for such a complex operation. President Brooks faced the most difficult decision of her presidency. She could allow the Council to fall and claim their territory for the Alliance, expanding human influence across the galaxy. Or she could offer assistance to the same species that had driven humanity away 5 years earlier. The debate in Earth's Global Assembly was fierce. Senator Martinez, who had once opposed withdrawal from the Council, now argued for letting the Council face the consequences of their actions. Admiral Thompson supported this view, believing that Council weakness was their own fault, but Captain Morrison, now serving as Earth's senior diplomat, presented a different perspective. If we let the Council fall, billions of innocent civilians will die. Children who had nothing to do with political decisions will suffer. That's not who we are as humans. The decision became clear when the Void fleet reached the core systems and began attacking civilian populations indiscriminately. Reports flooded in of cities burning and entire species facing extinction. The Harbingers weren't interested in conquest for political reasons. They wanted to consume the galaxy's energy completely. Dr. Stevens presented evidence that the Harbingers planned to drain every star, every planet, every source of power in the galaxy. Their dead home galaxy showed the results of such consumption. Nothing but cold darkness and floating debris. President Brooks made her announcement to the galaxy from the Alliance headquarters on New Geneva Station. The Free Worlds Alliance offers full military assistance to all species facing the Void fleet threat. Our only condition is the immediate dissolution of the old Council system and the creation of a new unified government based on voluntary cooperation. High Arbiter Cynthia, watching her civilization crumble around her, had no choice but to accept. In her final official act as Council leader, she transferred all governmental authority to the Free Worlds Alliance. Admiral Stone led the largest fleet action in galactic history, as ships from 12 different Alliance species coordinated their attack on the Void fleet. The battle showcased everything that made the Alliance stronger than the old Council system. Human creativity provided innovative tactics. Threx coordination allowed perfect timing between dozens of ships. Neptari adaptability helped forces respond to changing battle conditions. Prometheus processed vast amounts of information in real time, coordinating strategies that no biological command structure could manage. The turning point came when Prometheus interfaced directly with Void fleet systems using access codes derived from the former Devourer technology. The AI created openings in the enemy formations that Alliance forces could exploit. Captain Turner's Pioneer became the first ship to successfully disable a Harbinger vessel, proving that the quantum entanglement networks could be disrupted. The victory spread hope through Alliance forces and showed that the enemy could be defeated. But the final battle required cooperation from every species in the galaxy, including former Council members who had opposed humanity for years. Admiral Morrison, Jake's son who had followed his father into military service, coordinated the massive fleet above Nexus Prime. Zephyrian crystal ships provided energy for human weapons. Corvin vessels served as mobile command centers. Even the energy-based Lumins contributed their power to the Alliance effort. Former enemies fought side by side against an external threat that endangered all life. General Adams coordinated ground operations on 12 different worlds, while Admiral Thompson commanded the space battle. Their strategies combined 5 years of Alliance innovation with desperate courage from species fighting for survival. The Harbingers were ultimately defeated not through superior firepower, but through the cooperation they had never expected to encounter. Their rigid hierarchy couldn't adapt to the Alliance's fluid command, structure, and cross-species coordination. The last Harbinger ship was captured rather than destroyed. Its crew faced a choice between prosecution for war crimes or integration. Intergalactic society? Some chose prison, but others selected rehabilitation, beginning the long process of healing the damage their invasion had caused. In the aftermath, representatives from every surviving species gathered at the rebuilt chambers of Nexus Prime. The old Galactic Cooperation Council was formally dissolved, replaced by the unified Galactic Alliance that embraced the principles humanity had championed. President Brooks, now serving as the first elected leader of the new galactic government, delivered her inaugural address from the same chamber where humans had once been treated as junior partners. Today, we build a civilization based not on fear and control, but on cooperation and mutual respect, she announced to billions of beings across the galaxy. Our diversity is our strength. Our willingness to work together is our greatest weapon against any threat. The new alliance included species that had never been part of the old council system. The plant-based Verdani brought biological knowledge. The nomadic Starkin offered dimensional travel technology. AI beings like Prometheus provided digital perspectives that enhanced every other form of intelligence. Admiral Morrison, following in his father's footsteps, led the first joint exploration fleet beyond the galactic rim. Their mission was to ensure that no other refugee civilizations faced the desperation that had driven the Harbingers to violence. The fleet included ships from every Alliance species, crewed by beings who had once viewed each other with suspicion. Now they worked as partners, exploring the vast darkness between galaxies and extending Alliance principles to whatever they might find. The old council chambers became a museum, honoring all species that had contributed to galactic civilization. The main exhibit told the story of humanity's journey, from council members to independent pioneers to founders of a truly cooperative galactic community. Children from dozens of species visited the museum, learning about the importance of cooperation and the courage needed to challenge systems that no longer served the greater good. They studied how sometimes the greatest changes came from having the strength to walk away from what was familiar and build something better. Captain Jake Morrison, now retired, but still serving as an advisor, often visited the museum. He would stand before the display showing humanity's withdrawal from the council and remember the day when everything changed.